Shalom, everyone. Shalom. Welcome to Torah lovers. Let's learn some Pirki Avot. Pirki Avot. We learned the Torah portion. We went through the portion of Tazria Matzorah. We went through all the commandments that are in Tazria Matzorah. And we learned some of the commentary on some of the sentences there, but we went through pretty much, and now we're going through Pirki Avot. Pirki Avot is learned now in this time, in these days between Passover and Shavuot by the majority of the religious Jews, and some learn until Shalom, everyone. Some learn until Rosh Hashanah. That's what Chabad also does. We learn until Rosh Hashanah. So we go through Pirkei Avot three times. So here we go. Let's go. What did we learn? Last time we learned. All right, so last time we learned, let's just go quickly through what we learned up to now. I think we're up to now Mishnah Vav, the sixth Mishnah. Moshe received the Torah from Mount Sinai. He gave it to Yoshua. Then the Jews came to the land of Israel. Joshua gave the Torah. What do you mean he gave the Torah? He gave the Torah with all of its explanations. He gave it to the elders. That's the judges that were in the first 440 years when the Jews were in the land of Israel, until Samuel the prophet. And then that was the Nevi'im. That was the next generation they gave it to the prophets. The prophets lasted all the way through the Second Temple, up to the beginning, all the way through the First Temple, up to the beginning of the Second Temple. The last of the official prophets were Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. They were in the beginning of the Second Temple, together with Mordechai, and there was another called Zerubbabel. He was the leader of the Jews, and there was Ezra and Nehemiah and Michael, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, and they were called the Knesset Gedola, the men of the Great Assembly. And the men of the Great Assembly started making sayings, and they said, "Be calm and methodical when you judge. Have a lot of pupils. Don't keep the Torah to yourself. Teach the Torah to everybody that wants it. And make fences around the Torah. Make rabbinical laws." And this is, of course, based on the sentence in the Torah that says the rabbinical laws, the rabbis must make laws. Ushamartem et mishmarti. And that the Jewish people are obligated from the Torah to listen to the rabbis, providing that they're genuine rabbis. Then we have the second, Shimon the Tzaddik. He was the last one of the people of the Great Assembly. This was like in the middle of the Second Temple. Middle of the Second Temple. He gave, it says that Alexander the Great, he saw Shimon the Tzaddik when he came back from one of his victories. And therefore he left the Jews alone. Because the Greeks didn't destroy, that was around the time of Hanukkah. And Shimon HaTzadik, he said three things, that the world stands on three things: on learning Torah, on the sacrifices, and when the temple was destroyed, until the third temple is destroyed, it stands on prayer, that's avoda, and on acts of kindness. And then he had pupils. His pupil was Antigonos Isocho. And he started to explain what is avoda. What does it mean? Serving God. It says when you serve God, you should serve God not in order to receive reward. Even though there are rewards, you should serve God not in order to receive them, to go to heaven. But you should be rather serve God in order to serve God. Doing God. If God wants to give you a prize, he'll give you prizes. and you should have the fear of God should be on you. Fear of God means don't start making up your own laws. Don't think you're God. Don't think that you're one of the rabbis, unless you really have the clear fear of God and his Torah. Fourth, Yossi ben Yoezer and Yossi ben Yochanan received from them. Received from who? From Antigonus Isocho and from Shimon HaTzadik. Some people say he just received from Antigonus Isocho, and instead you should be saying Mimenu, from him. Anyway, we said this, though. I'm just going over quickly what we did last time. Yossi ben Yozer said, your house should be open. Your house should be a place of the Chachamim. He was explaining what Shimon HaTzadik said, Torah, Avot, v'gamilas chasadim. He was explaining Torah, Avot, the first explanation was avoda. Avoda means you should do service of God. Serve God, not in order to receive reward. The very interesting thing about prayer, when we pray, you're supposed to pray for yourself, right? That's the highest point of prayer, is the Shemona Esrei, where you pray for yourself. So how is that high? I mean, the whole purpose of Judaism is less and less to concentrate on yourself and more to concentrate on the Creator. I mean, He's creating you, so He knows what's best for you. Right? He knows what's best for you more than you know what's best for you. So it says that's what you should pray for. If there's something wrong in this world, you see something that's wrong, it's not because I'm praying for myself. If I'm missing something, it's a sign that the world is not perfect. So it says that means that the Shekhinah is not perfect. There's something wrong with the connection between us and God. That's called the Shekhinah, God's presence. So there's something wrong with God's presence. So it says you're supposed to pray for the Shekhinah. As you're supposed to pray that this pipeline between us and God gets fixed up. And then things in the world will get fixed up, generally speaking. That's what it means. So that's what it means. Avoda, you're supposed to pray to God in order to report to God what is missing in the world. You're praying to God in order to serve God. What about, that's avoda. What's Torah? Torah is explaining now. Torah is explaining that your house should be open to the wise men. They should sit at their feet and etc. and learn their Torah, drink with their thirster. Yossi ben Yochanan, he was the second of this pair. Now they're going to be all pairs, we said. One of them is the leader of everyone. He's called the Nasi. He's like the prime minister. And the other one is the head of the Sanhedrin. Here, Yossi ben Yochanan, he's the head of the Sanhedrin. And he said, your house should be open for guests, and poor people should be working in your house, etc. That's to show the idea of kindness. Kindness. It says, and don't talk too much, not even with your wife. Don't waste too much time in talking. Okay, now we're up to today. Yeshua ben Prachia and Nitai Arbeli, they received from them. This is already getting near the end of the time of the temple. According to some opinions, the Yeshua ben Prachia, that was when Yashkela, JC, he was in that time. And Nitai Arbeli, they received from them. Yeshua ben Prachia said, he's the founder of in the Talmud, they don't use his name. They say Poshe Yisrael, the sinner of the Jews. That's what they call the Yashkel. So it's not good to say his name. It's not only that, it's used as an idolatry. You're not supposed to say any name of idolatry that's not written clearly in the Torah. So you can say things like Baal Peor or Egel Azav or things like that. Okay. So they said, make yourself a rabbi. In other words, choose someone that you think is any fit in any way and say these better than you. Give him authority over you, right? That you can ask him advice and etc. And God will help. Now, this is a very basic principle of Judaism, by the way, which I sort of leave out when I speak. And that is that God really helps. I mean, the problem is that he doesn't help the way we want, right? But he does always help the way that we need. So a person would say, hey, God always helps, so, I want $1 million. They say if God always answered all the prayers, then the rich people would hire people to pray for them, and they'd always get what they wanted. So obviously, God doesn't answer all the prayers the way we want to. Sometimes the worst thing, you see these people who win the lottery, right? They win $50 million, and they get divorced and they commit suicide and everybody attacks them. So who doesn't want to win the lottery? Everybody wants, right? But sometimes it can be the worst thing for you. And you should spend money, even if you have to spend money, that you should have yourself a friend. Make efforts, go to he wants to make a wedding in Australia or in Honolulu or somewhere. Go there, make a friend. And you should judge everyone positively. That's what we got up to last time. You have a doubt about somebody, but you have a reason to believe that he's a liar, a cheat, or whatever it is. Believe him positively. Don't listen to the negative things until totally proven differently. Totally proven differently. Yeah, here we have these stories like King David, right? King David, everybody hated him. Moses, everybody hated him. Why? Because everybody spoke bad things about him, and important people said bad things. Important people say, must be so. Right? Korach said that Moshe is not good. Korach is a great man. We have to listen to him. So therefore, you have to be very, very careful how you judge people and how you listen to negative opinions about people. Nitai Arbeili said, and this is what we got up to. Let's go. Harchek mishachen ra. Keep away from bad neighbors. Al titchaber l'rasha. Don't be friends with evil people. Al tityayesh me'apur anut. And never give up on God's retribution. What does it mean? Look and see. Now we'll do the Bar Tanura. Harchek mishachen ra. Keep away from bad neighbors. Harchek mishachen ra. Keep away from bad neighbors. Just give me one moment here. One moment. Just want to check something out over here before I say. Rav Avadia of Bartanura. Nah, it's got the wine over there. I don't want the wine. Isn't this awful? Okay. Okay, I should look this up more. I just want, here it is. He was in the 15th century. That's what I thought, right? In other words, he lived in the 1400s, right? 15th century, I guess 15 centuries. So 15th century means that he lived 500 plus years ago, right? 500 years ago. And that's when he died. He died in 1515. So it means he died, now is what, 20, so he died 500 years ago. In Italy, Rav Avadia of Bartanura. He's the one that made these commentaries. There's other people. There's Tosfot Yom Tov. That's Yotov from Yosef Lipman. Okay, said Nitar Arbeili. Here, he was one of the couple, right? He was one of the pair. Yeshua ben Prachia and Nitar Arbeili. Nitar Arbeili said, keep away from a bad neighbor. Shalot Talamed, so that you shouldn't learn from what he does, and also that you should not be punished together with him when he falls down. Like it says, woe to the evil person, woe to his neighbor. That was the story with Korach and the tribe of Shimon. Korach was from the tribe of Levi, and Shimon was right next to him, and they all fell down. Korach, the terrible story of Korach. Don't be friends with evil people. That's what the rabbi said. Anyone who is medabek, anybody who joins a group of evil people, even though that he doesn't do what they do, nevertheless, he receives punishment like all of them. What is this similar to? To a person that goes into a house in a tannery. A tannery is very smelly. In order to process skins, hides, so they used to use all the smelly stuff. Well, if you go into the house, so even though he doesn't buy anything, right? You take your pupils. I'm just going to turn this off a little. Okay. There's a little background noises over here, so I will. There we go. Oh, there we go. Yeah. And so it says, like, if you go into a smelly place, you go into a whatever it is, a tannery, even though you don't buy anything from him, but nevertheless, everybody has a bad smell on them. So therefore, don't hang around bad people, keep away from the bar rooms and etc. Don't and also don't ever give up from God's retribution. What does it mean? Don't say this evil person, look, he's evil, he's succeeding. You know what? I'll be friends with him. Flattery. We flatter people who are evil because we're afraid of them. They're powerful and we know that they're evil, but we're, oh yes, you're the greatest, Mr. Capone, I really like you, right, etc. Because Hashem is sachekelo. It so happens that evil succeeds in this world, but not for long. Therefore, it says, don't give up don't forget that there is punishment in this world. In other words, you should know that soon punishment will come to these people, and their end will be soon. You see, there was, one of the classic cases, terrible, was in Russia when the Communist Party stood up and they started to get powerful in the 20s. It took them a while in order to really sort of get organized, but in the 20s, that's when they were really taking power. So there were a lot of Jews that became avid communists, avid communists. And part of communism was action. You got to get rid of the capitalists and other people that don't believe in communism. They're the enemies, not just of communism, they're the enemies of all mankind. So if you kill them or whatever, so with this philosophy, Stalin, they say, he succeeded in killing, they don't even know how many people, but as many as 50 million people. Some people even say more. So there was a group of Jews, a large group of Jews, and they were called the Jewish sector, Yevtsektia. And they would go around and turn in and arrest and kill Jews, especially religious Jews. Most of the non-religious Jews were with the communists. The religious Jews, they wanted nothing to do with them. So they were the enemies of the people, right, officially. Even though according to the communist law, that they could you could worship religion. That was one of the things. There was freedom of religion. It was one of the big things of communism, was that the individual was free to do things. You couldn't organize against the government. In any case, so they became very, very powerful until they were the ones that arrested the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe and put him into prison. And they wanted very, very much to have him killed. And when it ended up that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe miraculously, it's a whole story we celebrate on Yud Beis Tammuz, miraculously when he got out of prison, as they pursued him and they ran after him, he had to run away from them all the time in Russia until he was freed from Russia, until he was evicted from Russia. But all these Jews, they were bloodthirsty, terrible people. They threw him up and they threw him in the prison and everything. And eventually they were all killed, each and every one of them. Stalin had the whole entire bunch of them wiped out. Who knows how many there were? There must have been thousands. And you have organized crime and all these people. And in the end, they all, almost all of them, they get caught or they kill each other with it. So in the end, crime does not pay. And crime does not pay. So we'll see. Eventually, God will. Here we have what the prime example, a better example than that. That was a small example. The Jews themselves. The Jews have been hated and been pursued and been victimized and villainized, by all these things. Listen, all of Christianity is just based on the idea that Judaism is wrong, that the Torah is being misinterpreted by the Jews and the rabbis are evil, and etc. The whole entire basis of that religion, 2 billion people, more, it's based on the fact that Judaism is wrong, that they have the wrong interpretations of the Torah, and that we just have to get rid of the whole religion. That's the whole entire, and amazingly, miraculously, Judaism has survived all these the Crusades and the Inquisitions, and miraculous. So in other words, don't give up on God's, how do you say, retribution, justice. All right, there we go. Pernius. Next, Yeshua, Yehuda ben Tabai, and Shimon ben Shetach. They received from them. Now, here we got an interesting story. Here we have an interesting story. Shimon ben Shetach. Does it say over here? Okay. Shimon ben Shetach, he was the brother of the wife of King Yanai. Now, King Yanai had a bit of troubles. He had a sort of a little sort of a black blemish on his family. If you really came from Jewish background or not. Also, his mother, they say she was taken into imprisonment. In any case, he personally, this Yanai Melech, he was a very powerful person, very good warrior, and he came back from defeating all these countries, whatever it was, and he declared himself to be king. Now, in the time of Yanai Melech, that's when the Tzedukim were very powerful. The Tzedukim are known popular as the Sadducees. The Sadducees, contrary to public opinion, were very evil people, but they were very powerful and they were very rich. Now they don't exist anymore. The others took their place. They were very powerful, and they were also in the Sanhedrin, in the big court. Amazing. And the thing with these Sadducees were they did not believe in the rabbis. They opposed the rabbinical opinions of everything. They said the rabbis had no right to interpret the Torah. Everyone can interpret the Torah however they want, and they made up their own interpretations. Why their interpretations were better than the others, to this day I don't know, but nevertheless, that's what it was. So when King Yanai, when he came back, so one of these Tzedukim said, why don't you, so I guess his father had been a Kohen. So some people say, yeah, your father was a Kohen, but we have a lot of questions if you were born from your father. Some people say your mother was taken into prison. So one of these Tzedukim said to him, the Perushim, which they're called the Pharisaites, and to this day, the word Pharisaical has a bad meaning to it. Pharisaical means a person who's like, how do you say, says one thing and does another. Hypocritical person. Okay. But anyway, the Pharisees, those were the Perushim. That's like Rabbi Akiva, all the holy Jews. So the Tzedukim said, King Yana, you should be the high priest also. You want all these things. Put on the high priest's plate. And there was a plate that they put on their forehead. So he did it. And he said, and then this Tzeduki said, and now you're going to see that the Perushim really hate you. They're really against it. So one of the Perushim said, are you really sure that you're a Kohen? Oh, he didn't like that. In other words, there was implication that maybe his mother had been raped and he was a product of that. So he turned to the Tzeduki and said, what should I do? He said, kill them all. So he did. He killed all of the wise men. He killed all the Perushim. And there's a lot of them who ran away. One of them that ran away was Yehuda ben Tabai. He ran away. And one of them that hid was Shimon ben Shetach, because he was the brother of the king's wife. She hid him away. And finally, in the end, she convinced him to bring him out. He blinded him, the whole long story. And so he brought him out, and he was so wise and such a genius that he arranged it that all of these Tzedukim got evicted from the high court, and he put in Perushim. And so he called Yehuda ben Tabai to be the head of the Sanhedrin, to be the Nasi, and he was the head of the Sanhedrin. There's a lot of stories about Shimon ben Shetach also. Anyway, Yehuda ben Tabai and Shimon ben Shetach, they received from Nitar Arbaili and Yeshua ben Parachia. And they said like this, don't make yourself ka'archei dayanim. Don't make, if you're a judge, they spoke to the judges, don't be a lawyer. Don't give advice to the litigants, right? Say to the litigants, listen, you're being charged with this, say, don't give advice. We'll see what it means. And when the two litigants are standing in front of you, they should be considered in your eyes as both guilty. Guilty. They have to prove themselves innocent. Of course, don't declare them, but they should be in your eyes. Don't say that they're both, don't look at a person and say he's innocent. He's charged with something. Think, okay, let me hear all the evidence. But when, after the case, then they should be in your eyes as that they're both innocent. When they receive the law. In other words, you say, okay, you're guilty, you have to pay. Let's look at the commentary and see what it says. When those people are standing, when the litigants are standing in front of you, and they're both presenting their arguments in front of the judges, the judge should not say to one of them, listen, you want to get out of this? Don't talk like that. Don't say what you just said. Say like this. Why? In order that you should win. Even though that you know that this person is right? But don't give advice to people before you finally make your final decision. Don't give the litigants advice what they should say. In other words, be neutral. Another explanation: don't be Orche means the biggest of the judges. Don't think that you know everything. Here it's talking about, what does it mean? Now, some people say it's not talking about judges. It doesn't say anything about judges. It says, don't be Orche Dayanim. When you were a pupil, don't think that you are a big judge and you know everything. Even though that you know the law, it says, don't start talking in front of your rabbi and say, listen, I think the law is like this, and etc. like this. You're a pupil, be a pupil. Orche, that's what it means, archot, be very big. Right? No. Don't make yourself big. Archot beit. What's this? According to other people, it says this shouldn't be big. This shouldn't be big, dark. According to other people, I heard, don't make yourself like the big judges. In other words, that you force that they should come and judge in front of you. Right? You see that there's cases. Don't tell the other judges, I want all the cases, the big cases, to come to me. Don't think that you're a big, right? In other words, be humble. Listen to that. When the litigants come in front of you, then they should both be guilty. He says, I owe you money. I say, I don't owe you any money. We go in front of a judge. Don't take any opinion. Say both of them are right. How can they both be right? It says, don't incline your heart to either one of them. Say, Ish ploni chashuvu, v'lo yit'u ta'anot sheker. Here, this is an important person. He wouldn't say a lie, because if you do so, then you'll never see anything bad about him. And what happens? You're a judge. Both people come in front of you. Both people claim that they're right. Both people claim the other person is wrong. What should you do? It says, well, think in your mind that both of them are wrong. How can they both be wrong? Doesn't make any sense. He says, this guy owes me $1 million. The other one says he's a liar, right? Is this person really a liar, or is he really a debtor? We don't know. Is he right or is he not? So it says, you're a judge. Don't make any opinion. Believe both opinions until you find out that it's differently. When they accept on themselves the judgment, shelo yachshod achayav lomar gazlan hayazeh, ela tomar shema to'eh haya, v'lo nitkaven ligzol. Inami nitchayav echad me'em shavua v'nishba lo tamar l'sheker nishba. In other words, when the court is finally finished, the case is finally finished, you should say, okay, the reason there should be zakayim. What does it mean, zakayim? It just came out. You just proved that Ruvain was a cheater and a liar. He said, I don't owe Shimon any money, and he does owe money. So what should you say? Don't say that, right, Ruvain is really guilty. Here, look, we see in the case that came out, say, listen, the guy probably made a mistake. He probably did owe him money, but he forgot. That's one opinion. And don't say that he's evil. Say something happened, there was a mistake, or don't, if you say to one of them, in Judaism, there's a thing about taking an oath. For instance, if there's a person, there's only one witness that something happened. So if one witness is not enough to find a person guilty, but it is enough to force a person to take an oath. So he's saying, Mr. Reuven, I have a witness that says that you owe Shimon $1,000. He says, I do not owe him. He said, were you willing to take an oath? Yes, I will. So he takes an oath. I swear I don't owe him any money. Took an oath. Oaths are usually taken with God's name. I swear to God, I didn't owe him any money. So he leaves. Don't think to yourself, guys, look at what he did for $1,000. The guy made a false oath. Don't say that. If he took an oath, it means that he's telling the truth. In other words, don't get personally involved, and don't say that just because a person did a sin, it means that he's a sinner. It happened that he did something wrong. That's Yehuda ben Tabai and Shimon ben Shetach. Yehuda ben Tabai, by the way, when Yanai HaMelech took over, he ran away to a place called Alexandria. He took him back. This is explained in the Gemara, in the Gemara Kedushim, in page 66. Okay. Ninth Mishnah. Shimon ben Shetach said, Shalom. Shimon ben Shetach said, Havi marbe lachkorat edim. Do a lot of questioning of the witnesses. Witnesses come and they say something, right? Question them, interrogate them, grill them to see that they're not lying. You have to be careful in your words. If you're a judge, be careful in what you say, because maybe you'll teach the witnesses to lie. How is this? Be careful with your words. You shouldn't say, the judge should not say, okay, you two witnesses, tell us what you saw. And they said, well, we saw Reuven borrow $10,000 from Shimon. He's not going to give him back. And say, don't be leading with your questions. Don't say, listen, are you sure that that's what you saw? Maybe you didn't really see him give money. Maybe you saw him give something. You weren't sure it's money, right? Maybe he was paying him back for something. Are you really sure? Don't be leading in your questions. You can say to him, are you sure that that's what you saw? Yes. Did you see money? He says, right? Don't ask him, maybe it could have been this way. Maybe you should have said like this. Or imoya davar kach haya paloni zakai. Or don't say to him, tell me you saw him give money. I mean, if you didn't see from very close, then he'll be innocent. Were you standing close? Don't say a thing like that. And we talked about him because this, the litigant or the witnesses will know to say what you want to hear. Shimon ben Shetach. Judges. Shmaya v'Avatalion, they received from them. Shmaya v'Avatalion were converts. Shmaya said, love, work, hate, to be a high position, to be a ruler over others, and don't be too close to the government. Let's see what Bartanura said. Shmaya v'Avatalion, they were Geri Tzedek. They were converts, and they were the direct relatives of Sancheriv. Sancheriv, he was the one that eventually he took away let me just turn this on. Okay, Sancheriv, he was the one who laid siege to Jerusalem. Remember Sancheriv? Sancheriv, he lured to Jerusalem. Some say that he was the one that took away the 10 tribes. The 10 tribes. They took them into exile, even though it says that it was really a different king that did that, and it was before Sancheriv. That was, what was it? Shalmansar, that he took away the 10 tribes. Okay, it's not important. See, the Shmaya v'Avatalion, they were direct descendants from Sancheriv. Sancheriv was the amazing miracle that happened on with Yechezkiyahu Melech, where they laid siege to Jerusalem, and the prophet came and said that that you're going to die. And so anyway, a long story. It ended up that the prophet came and said, I'm sorry, not that you're going to die. You have nothing to worry about. God is going to save you. And he was calm. And sure enough, an angel came and destroyed all of Sennacherib's army. Okay, said, he was, Shemaiah and Avot, they were direct descendants, both of them, from this king of Assyria. And I heard that Mipanesho Haya Avtalian Av Beidin, Avtalian, he was the head of the Sanhedrin. Therefore, he was called this name, Avtalian. What does it mean? Av, a father, L'Talian, to the to the people who were less than him. Atalia in Aramaic means katan. Talia means a small, young person. Kamo Omer Rav Yochanan ben Havia Talia says he was small. When he was small, it was a Talia. Okay. So he brings he brought a katan to katan. The Av Khan also Avtalian, he was the father of Yatomim Ktanim, of orphans, small orphans. Either this was talking about the other rabbis or whatever it was talking about. He adopted children. Okay. He said, what did he say? Love work. Shmaya. He said, love work and hate high position. Oev et malacha. You should love afilu yesh lecha b'malit parnes, even though you have money to live from. Nevertheless, don't sit around, do nothing. You must work at something. Because if a person doesn't work, if a person doesn't work, then it brings him to become crazy, depression. So always find yourself something to do, find yourself some work, find yourself to help someone, even if you're very rich, right? Paint your house, do something, help others. Hate the rabbanus. A person should say, listen, I'm a great person. I'm a very important. I can't go on work, do simple work. Rav said to Rav Kahana, Pshat Nevelos, do anything, even strip dead carcasses in the marketplace and take a reward, but don't say that I am a great man, I'm a Kohen or whatever, I am the high priest and son, and I hate work. Another explanation, son is a rabbanos, keep away from milin hog sorora al tzibur. Even if you happen to be the mayor, the governor, the president, the king, the highest rabbi, don't be a boss over everybody. Start giving orders and telling people what to do. The rabbanos, mekareves, sharabbanos, mekaveres et bala. If you're in a high position, eventually it will bury you. It makes a person think that he's really important. He gets all angry if people don't stand up for him. Everybody says a word, he thinks it's against him, and etc. And that eventually leads to an early demise. And altit vayed the reshut. In other words, in order to get a high position, so don't start rubbing elbows with the governor and the high people, right, in the government. Inami, or altit vayed the reshus lo ya'avirucha al dat konecha. Means lo titvada, even if you have a high position, don't let them make you rebel against God. Like we can say the doeg adami. Doeg was the King David had really high class enemies. He had really high class enemies. Doeg, Achitophel, these people were geniuses, holy people. The Shimi ben Gera, he was the head of the Sanhedrin at the time. And these people have said that's why Doeg and Adami, for instance, he became close with the government. And because of that, they gave him the permission to do whatever he wanted to. So therefore, he didn't want King David to be over him. And therefore, it made him crazy. So high position can make you crazy. Don't let it go to your head. Remember that God is always over you. Let's do the last one. Avtalian said, wise men, chachamim, be careful with what you say. If you say something that's misunderstood, you might be guilty, and the punishment will be exile, and you'll go to a place of evil water. Your pupils will drink. They come after you and they will die. And it'll come out that the name of heaven is Mechala. What's this talking about? This is what we'll have to continue tomorrow. He's going back to what we had before in here. It said, Antigonos Isocho. We learned right in the beginning. Antigonos Isocho, his pupils were Tzaduk and Betus. We talked about this. And he said, remember what Antigonos Isocho said? It was way back in the beginning. Antigonos Isocho said, you should not be like a servant that works for reward, but be like a servant that serves without any reward. So they said back to him, Tzaddik Ubetus, they were his pupils. They were Talmudic scholars. They said a person can do work all day and not get any reward. They said, if so, it means that there's no such thing as reward from the Torah. God doesn't care what we do. There's no reward and punishment in the afterlife. Therefore, we see from this that God doesn't care one way or the other what you do. Therefore, we're Jews. We have the Torah. We use the Torah for whatever we want to. We'll make up our own laws. We're against the rabbis. The rabbi said that there's such a thing as going to heaven. True, the rabbis say that it's not important. That's what he said. That's what the purpose of Antigonos Isocho was saying. There is heaven, but don't think that it's important. It's not important. The main thing is to serve the Creator. Don't think about yourself. But they misunderstood what he said. They said, you should be like a servant that serves without any reward. Oh, there's no reward? If so, what are you trying to tell us that there's heaven or not? And they went letarbut minusin. They went out to become apostates. What do you mean? They believed in God, but they didn't believe in the Torah. So that you could twist the Torah, you could do anything you want. And their pupils, they're called the Tzadukim and Beitusim until this very day. Said by maybe in 500 years ago, there were such things as Tzadukim and Beitusim. Could be. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Thank you very much. We're now on Mishnah Yud Aleph. We'll have to do this a little bit more. Mishnah Yud Aleph. And have a good day. See you tomorrow at 8:15 in the morning. Shalom u'bracha.